Oh, there we go. It is amazing when your live stream does not work, when things do not turn on like they are supposed to. Technology. Anyway, I am Anton Stetner, and today I'm going to review with you the Seattle Metro. We're going to talk about real estate. We're going to talk about what's happening. We're going to talk about what we see inside of the market. And I want you to drop in any questions that you have, any questions about the market, any questions about real estate, about interest rates, or about the economy, about what you're seeing. I do this for you. I love talking about data. I love talking about the economy, Washington state policy. We've sold thousands of homes here in the Seattle Metro, but really, as I review this review is for you. So let me know what you want to see inside of the real estate market or the economy in general, and we can just talk about it. But it was a struggle to get this to turn on this morning. It just kept saying live stream deleted, didn't work. I kept trying to go around in a circle, then finally it turned on. So hopefully either the link worked or people find the new link that it's on. Let's get started with what we're seeing. I got to share the magic screen here. In the in inflation, because I think inflation is something that we should take a look at first. There we go. That's what I wanted to take a look at. So the Bureau of Labor Statistics just reported inflation at 2.4%. And that came in at expectations. But when you look at Truflation's number, you can see very clearly that inflation is below 2% by Truflation. The reason that the inflation is being reported so hot is the way the Federal Reserve looks at inflation right now is a lagging data. It's lagging indicators. It's like they're driving down the road and looking in the rearview mirror. Truflation, on the other hand, is pulling in millions of data points in real time. This is most likely, this 1.2 is actual rate of inflation. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, hi, all of the above. And well, what's been happening? What's changing with inflation right now? Because you can see Truflation spiking up. Well, it's this right here. So these are oil prices. This is TradingView. If you like playing stocks, you know, you've looked at this one before. But inside of TradingView, what you can see is you can see that oil prices have essentially spiked up. And they spiked up because of the conflict there. The conflict there in Iran. You can see that oil prices were sitting basically in the 60s. And then they shot all the way up to 120. Then Trump came on and said, hey, the war is ending. It went, plummeted back down. And then reality sets in. And it's like, no, this conflict is not fully ending yet. It's still in existence. It's still happening right now. And this oil problem is not going away. And you're already starting to see that at the gas pumps. So you've seen gas prices rise because of this. But what also happens in relation to real estate is it causes rates to rise. So this is the 10-year treasury. The 10-year treasury is what affects 30-year fixed debt. The 10-year treasury actually affects all debt. It affects car loans, student loans, home equity lines of credit, HELOCs, and of course the 30-year fixed mortgage. Well, you can see that back here, this is the end of February, and then it just spikes up. The reason for that spike is these massive rise in oil prices. This is that tension showing up in the 10-year treasury. Another way to look at the 10-year treasury right here is, once again, just kind of using TradingView, you can see this spike up. Now it's pulling a hammer right here. So hopefully it doesn't push through and this rolls over back towards the moving average, because what's happened is the 30-year fixed debt today, 6.29. That number just literally 2 weeks ago was 5.99. So when turmoil happens, geopolitical events, major events, economic events, the 10-year treasury can move very quickly. And what I need you to know about interest rates in general is that they shoot up super quickly like a rocket, and then they float down like a parachute. So if you're thinking about buying or purchasing, you need to lock when you feel that you're getting a good rate, because it can fundamentally change very quickly overnight. And the 10-year treasury, what that does is there's a spread. So see how this is let's call it 6.3 just for conversation's sake. Or excuse me, 4.3. And then when we look at this, you can see that the 30-year fixed debt is basically 6.3. There's usually about 180 basis points to 200 basis points in between this debt. That's the normal rate of the margin. And that's been squishing down. So if that margin hadn't been compressing, we wouldn't even have gotten rates into the low fives. Other things that we're going to end up talking about is we're going to specifically review King County, specifically review Snohomish County. We'll take a quick look at Pierce, but I wanted to just kind of start on the macro level first. And if you have any questions or comments, like absolutely just drop it into the chat. If you're watching this afterwards, drop it in. We'll come through and answer them. But I wanted to start at a macro level first to talk about what's happening. Is one, the 10-year treasury has shot up, which has caused debt to rise. Two, the oil is shooting up, which will cause the economy to slow down, number one. And number two, it will cause inflation to go up if this sustains for a long period of time. Well, that combined with tariffs essentially keeps the inflation higher for longer, which is preventing the Fed from giving us our additional rate cuts. Well, that I want, and I know that you want. The other thing that's happened here in Washington State that we really have to bring up right now is the tax. Like, let's be really honest with what just happened. Washington State just passed a income tax for the first time in Washington State. I made a video about it yesterday. This video has already been watched 13,000 times in just 14 hours. Why? Because nobody wants an income tax here in Washington State. It doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, pink fluffy unicorn, whatever party you are. Nobody wants an income tax, and yet your state legislature just really forced that down everyone's throat. Yesterday, because of this, and people go, well, is capital flight real? Capital flight is 100% real. Yesterday, I received 2 phone calls from high net worth individuals who literally said, I'm done. I'm selling my home. I'm out. I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. This doesn't go into effect until 2028, number one. Number two, it's going to get a court challenge. Number three, I actually believe it's going to go through. But number four, even if we are going to sell your home, we don't want to do it today. And they said, why don't I want to do it today? I said, because right now with the conflict in Iran, with inflation picking up, with oil prices being up, with tariffs and the rates being up, you would be in a panic sale mode. Do you need to move immediately? No, I would actually love to stay. Well, then my recommendation is that if that is the case for your luxury home, let's look at doing it either late this year, but my even better recommendation would be spring of next year. Because as inflation comes down, and once again, we've been showing it coming down. Let's take a look at the trueflation numbers. As inflation comes down, then interest rates come down. And as interest rates come down, demand increases. And interest rates were trending nicely down until this oil Iran problem right here. Nathan, when would the court challenge happen? I believe the court challenges are actually going to start immediately. In that video, I outlined how I believe that the current majority party, the Democrats, As they pushed through the capital gains tax, what they did was they were laying the foundation to not have to go to you, the voter, and how they're going to get the courts to basically decide for them on changing Washington State's constitution. Because Washington State's constitution currently describes income as property, but the capital gains tax, the progressive Washington State Supreme Court said, nah, that's not your income. It's not your property. It's an excise tax. So through some hand waving, they were then able to say that capital gains was an excise tax and not an income tax. I believe that's the same maneuver they're going to try to do. I think this is going to get challenged immediately. It will take about the whole timeline for it to go into effect. If you read the actual bill, one thing in the actual bill that they did was they put in an emergencies clause. And that emergency clause prevents you, the citizens, me, every one of us, this Washingtonians, from having a referendum to do it. It's crazy. This is definitely not the will of the people. I think it's going to go to court, and I think as of right now, it will end up losing in court, which then will affect luxury real estate, because you're already seeing capital flight. Good old Starbucks. What is Starbucks doing right now? Starbucks news. Oh, look, all I have to do is press the news button and it pops up. Former CEO moves from Washington State to Florida. Why? Because he doesn't want to pay $2 million of his income in taxes to Washington State. Capital flight is real. I received multiple phone calls about it yesterday. So this is just going to happen. What I believe is going to happen, though, is this is going to end up hurting the luxury part of the market. It's not really going to affect the median and below the median. I'm talking 2 to 3x the median. So let's dig into some numbers and I'll kind of give you what I'm thinking on that one. Let me open up the MLS, go into the info sparks. Let's go into King County real quick, and I can kind of show you what I mean when I say this. Let's throw this one up on the screen. So King County's median price in February of last month was basically $834,000. And the average price last month was $1 million. So when I say the luxury end of the market is going to be affected by this, I'm talking in that 2 to 3x the median, or 2 to 3x the average. So I'm talking in that 2 to 3 million range. Let's just call it 2.5. 2.5 and above in King County could be hurt by capital flight. Or if we're looking at from the median, I'm talking like, 2.4 and above. That's a real possibility. I've never seen so many people in my lifetime ready, willing, and able to move because of that. Now, as I go through these stats, everyone, drop any questions you have in the chat, whether you're watching it live or afterwards. And I'm happy to answer your questions, but we're going to just dig through what's happening in King County, because the market this year, this spring market, is starting off slower than last year. And of course, the current conflict is not helping that. Now, is the market crashing? No, the market's not crashing, but it's not as strong as it was last year. And I'm going to show you that inside the data. I do believe, though, once this conflict resolves itself, like if we get out of Iran in a timely fashion, then the housing market will pick up and rates will cool back down. Now, however, if this turns into a full-blown war and we're there for a long period of time, that could definitely stagnate real estate sales, because real estate sales, here's the closed sales for King County. Real estate sales is all based on emotion. People buy properties based on emotions because they're a basic human need. So when our emotions are high and we don't feel comfortable because of geopolitical events, we slow down and we drag our feet. Looking at the number of new listings, you can see there's 24% more in King County than there was February versus February. Homes for sale is up almost 40%. Pending sales only up 3% and closed sales down 8.1. See, this is what I mean. This is that slowdown in the market. The month supply of pending 2.7. When people ask, like, what's the best time to buy? It's always during the winter. Okay. You can see that in the percent of original list price data. Look at that. King County, 95.5% in the winter, 95.6 in January. What that means is it means the average buyer, when the weather wasn't that nice, got about 5% off versus conversely, last month, they only got 98, and 98 is about the historical average. It's actually 98.4. So the average buyer only gets like 1.6% off. Buy when others aren't buying. So also right now, good time to buy. We've been getting some good deals for our buyers. I want to look at this other piece of data. So I'm going to I got to remove that from the stage. Stop sharing that one. Share this screen. And I want to share this PDF. Where did it go? There it is. Share that one. Perfect. Okay, that's the Snohomish County one. Let's look at the King County one real quick. Got to make that whole thing big and make it bigger so it's easier to read. There we go. Here's what's very interesting about King County year to date is year to date in the median price, you can see it's only up 1.4%, with the average being down 0.7. So King County right now is having a slower time to start in the year. And it's even worse in a lot of the condo market. Let's go look at, I want to look at the Redfin Data Center real quick because I like one of the pieces of data that they show. Let's remove this one. And we're going to add that window back in. There we go. Perfect. So Redfin, what's very cool about their data is they publish this on such a regular basis. So this is the whole Seattle Metro. You can see the green line right here is new listings. So the whole Seattle Metro is up about 11.7% versus last year in new listings, but the pendings are down 12%. I really like this stat, off market in 2 weeks. This is one of those statistics that shows you the velocity of the market. It shows how quickly things are moving. When you look at the off market in 2 weeks, you can see that it's about 2% lower than last year, and it was basically almost as low as 6% lower than last year. Green being this year, blue being last year. So just a little bit slower. Because one thing when I say like just a little bit slower, some people are like, oh my goodness, the market's crashing. It's not crashing. We're still in a great fundamental market, but just slightly slower than last year. It's just things you have to consider when pricing your home, when making offers, when buying investment properties. Every time I consider my personal red lines crossed in Seattle, they just get crossed again, and I'm still here. I feel you. I was flabbergasted as I made the video about the income tax, because even though they're calling it a millionaire tax, we know the goal is to have income tax for everyone in Washington state. They're simply starting there and then turning around and doing it. What we're seeing is an erosion of our freedoms, our personal liberties, and more control being put on the system. Another good example of that was they also voted through to raid a police officer and firefighters pension fund. They also voted through that bureaucrats can remove sheriffs. Sheriffs are generally elected by the people, and now the bureaucrats have more say in that because they didn't like what the pushback that they were receiving from that sheriff down there in Pierce County. Another thing that I didn't like, because I am all for freedom of speech. I don't care if you don't agree with me. I don't care if you're of a different political party. I want to talk and have discussion about issues because I believe like somewhere between this opinion and that opinion, somewhere in the middle is the right opinion that's going to benefit the most people. And when the legislature is receiving pushback and all of a sudden they block Brandy Cruz, Ari Hoffman, and Jonathan Cho, and make it so they can't get press passes because they're not press. They're more press than the Seattle Times because they're out there doing their thing, expressing their opinion. And if you don't agree with them, blocking them from being in the room while you're trying to pass an income tax. Yes, exactly. That's exactly how I feel. Grr is right. All right. So I gotta move back to what's happening inside the market. More of the story. Market's pretty good, but it is starting a little bit slower. Let's continue to look at a couple things in King County. So the original list price, it is popping up to show that kind of natural spring market. But look, see, I got to make this bigger so y'all can see it. Last year in February, we were already at 101% or 100.1, excuse me. But this February, we're only at 98. That is showing you in the data exactly what I'm talking about. See, when we do real estate for our buyers, our sellers, everything, our goal is to show you in the data how to make the best decision, not an emotional decision that I'm making or you're making. It's what's the data say so that we can help you out. Yeah, I agree. Total crooks. And another comment. HB 226 made it through. I'm not sure. What is HB 226? Let me Google that one real quick. I'm not sure which one that is. HB 2266. Which one is this? Encouraging permanent supportive. Oh, yes. Yeah. So this is the one that forces cities to have the emergency housing, which historically has caused a rise in crime. And some areas have tried to prevent it. I get torn on things like this. No side of this issue is 100% correct or 100% wrong. One, we need housing for people who are in homeless situations, in supportive housing, in coming out of transitional housing, coming out of prison, coming out of drugs or alcohol or things of that nature. I just don't believe we should force that to be in specific areas. But at the same time, the level of NIMBYism that Washington State has, where they try to just block everything, is probably why the state legislature is forcing this. Another good example of that one is, the Washington State legislature had to pass the ADU bill and they had to pass the middle housing bill. Why? Because not only was the Growth Management Act limiting the supply of housing, which has caused this just explosion in pricing. How do you know the Growth Management Act caused the explosion in pricing? Let me show you what's happened in King County. Okay, years, max. Let's go as far back as the MLS will currently go in their data. January of 2006, the average price of a home in King County was $424,000. And like I said in February, it was $1,033,473. That is the government using the Growth Management Act to control suburban sprawl and causing house prices to shoot through the roof since the 1990s. So there are times when the legislature has to step in, and then they forced middle housing. They forced the ADU bill. So now you can build 2 in each backyard. P.S. Investors, first-time home buyers, my house hackers, that is one of the absolute best moves that you should be doing right now. Let us know how we can help you with that. We're helping a ton of investors. We're doing them ourselves. I'm so excited about that one. During this legislation, there was actually 2 other housing bills that did pass that are helpful. One of them is limiting the mixed use. Mixed use is when you have the retail on the bottom and the apartments above. Once again, the cities and the counties were trying to force through so much commercial because they get a higher tax revenue that it was preventing more residential units from happening, which is causing rents to rise and home prices to rise. And who can actually afford that? I mean, that's what's really crazy. Whether you're looking at like King County, Snohomish County, Pierce County, and looking at the numbers, we just did some numbers. I believe it was for Snohomish County, and I believe it was 85,000 used to get you into the median priced home, and now you need 150. And so for King County, because we did those numbers, and I'm going to butcher this, I apologize. I believe it used to be, and when I say used to be, I'm talking 21 and 20, when interest rates were lower. It was something like 110,000 in King County, and now it's like 250,000. And so that is definitely taking dual income or a higher salary. That's one of the reasons tech has been very good for the economy and yet hard on housing. We are so far behind on housing. I'm going to see if I can pull up real quick a presentation I just did. So I just did this talk about land development for agents. One of my friends, they put together this event, and I'm going to show you how far we're behind on housing. Let me find that slide real quick. You like that? I called myself the chief bottle washer. That was my title in this presentation. So I talked to them about development, talked to them about ways to find the properties. Oh, there's what I'm looking for. Building permits in 2025, we only permitted 33,600 units in Washington state. Well, how many units do we actually need? Right now, we're probably about 250,000 units behind here on Washington state. And the BIAW, the Builders Industry or Builders Association Industry of Washington, they said that we need 1.1 million homes by 2044. Now let's look at this next slide real quick. Oh, hold on. I got to click back over there. So what's happening is we're forecasted this year to bring in about 36,000 permits. We need about 50 to 55, but to catch up, we need about 75,000. This is why pricing has got so out of control in our area is we're simply not building enough. It's not the investors own too much, hedge funds own too much. No, that's politicians making up a boogeyman to blame for them putting on too much regulation and strangling housing and forcing housing prices through the roof. Housing prices over the last 40 years in Washington state have literally outpaced, I think, almost everywhere in the country. We're definitely in the top 3. It's because of this. It's because we need 75,000 units and we're only permitting 36. Wow is right. I feel exactly the same way. And we're looking to buy and can only afford about 500,000. You know what? I understand that. And we're hearing more and more of that. One thing that's happening or that we're having to do that people that are, they're sitting like at that median or slightly below the median, there's a lot of competition there. Quite often we have to go hunting off market, or we've got to find something that needs a little bit of TLC so they can buy it, create a little bit of equity in order to be able to get into the right property. You are not alone on that journey. And I want to tell everyone it's going to keep coming because look at population. So our estimated population right now in King County is basically 2.4. Snohomish County, we basically have 900,000. But we got to put 650,000 people into King County by 2044 and another 250,000 into Snohomish County. That means we need 6 more cities moving into King County and 3 more moving into Snohomish County. That's an unbelievable amount. All right, let's switch back to stats to continue on through this. Hey, if you're watching this on replay, drop any questions you have below. If you're on with me live, drop any questions you have in the chat. I'm always happy to answer them, go off on a little tangent with you. Look at Snohomish County. So let's look at where Snohomish County started. The average price in 2006 was $316,000. Last month, it was $783,000. I want to throw Pierce on here real quick too. That way we've kind of got like the whole metro. Let's look at Pierce real quick too. Pierce was $272, and last month it was $581. That's an explosion in pricing. That explosion is lack of supply. The demand is there because our economy is good. Our economy in Washington State is currently slowing down. The income tax comes at a very inopportune time for Washington State. Washington State's inflation is currently outpacing the rest of the nation, number one. Number two, our unemployment rate is slightly higher than the rest of the nation. Number three, we are losing taxpayers while other states are gaining taxpayers. Well, what states are gaining taxpayers? Texas, Florida, Tennessee are the ones that are gaining them at the fastest rate. And then we were like, oh, we're brilliant. We should just go pass an income tax instead of cutting the spending. Sorry, I know I'm ranting about that too much. I'm peeved off about it. Anyway, average price 1.6% over where it was last February. The median 0.7. Let's look at it on the year-to-date number real quick. I'm going to stop sharing that. Let's throw that PDF file up. I want to look at it on the year-to-date. Where did that one go? There we go. Share that, throw it up on the screen. King County. Let's look at Snohomish County. Make it bigger. So this is where it's very interesting. It also shows you where the money is. There's more money in King County than there is in Snohomish or Pierce. So remember when we looked at King County, that median sales price was up 1.4%. Oh, I forgot to say this. Median means the middle. Average is add them all together and divide by the total. The median is less affected by the extremes. The average will be more affected by the extremes. But look at this. 770. Okay. Through February of last year, 737 this year. That's down 4.3% in Snohomish County. That's real. That's real. Now, can we catch up? Yes, absolutely. Can it go much further? No, because the spring market is really starting to set in, and as the spring market sets in, it'll lift it. It's also why, as I'm sharing data with you guys, as I'm sharing information with you, our subscribers, our listeners, I always tell you when deal season is happening. I tell you when we are getting deals. Realize we are. So one, my real estate team sells a bunch of real estate. Two, I own brokerages, so I get to see what happens across the swath. I also own a title and escrow company, so I get to see what happens through there. But then lastly, I am a hardcore investor who is always making offers on properties. So we have real-time information showing us when deal season is happening. And this won't last for what we're seeing. Do you think we should be worried about downtown Seattle condo prices dropping in the next few years due to losing tech talents yet? So let's talk about where condos were before this, and then we can add condos in on top of it, because condos have been telling their own story. And it's actually really clear in the data. So this is condos in Snohomish County. And you can see that condos in Snohomish County year to date are down 9.4%, while the residential is only down 4.3%. Well, why is that happening? Excuse me. What's happening with condos is what's been happening actually to a lot of businesses. Condos are being disproportionately beat up due to inflation. And let me explain exactly where it's showing up so you can pay attention whether you own a condo or intend on buying one. What has happened to property taxes? Property taxes have massively shot up. Number one. Number two, what's happened to insurance? Insurance has massively shot up. Number three, what's happened to general maintenance like construction, labor, material, wages? That's massively shot up. Are most condominiums professionally managed? No, unfortunately not. So you've got a board that's part of an HOA that is, and they're doing their best. Okay, so I'm not faulting them by any means, but they may not be the best at running a business, and an HOA is a actual business, and its customers are the people that own the units. So what's happening is HOA dues are having to shoot up dramatically because of insurance, maintenance, and property taxes. As the cost of those HOA dues shoot up, what happens is the price they can sell for comes down. Because when a buyer goes to qualify for a condominium, the lender has to factor in the HOA dues into their monthly payment. And so, yeah, HOA dues are nuts. I totally agree with you. And some of them are going to get worse. We're looking at, we're helping a condo in Issaquah and a condo in Bellevue right now. And both of them have the exact same problem. Both of those condos, the HOA dues were not raised consistently enough. And now they're getting ready to go through a major maintenance cycle. And the one in Bellevue, it needs like a bunch of decking, and it needs some siding stuff. So each one of the units is going to get hit with a massive assessment all at once. The one in Issaquah is similar, but it's not as extreme. So if you're going to buy a condo in this market, you need to deeply audit the HOA. You need to understand their maintenance cycle. You need to understand their expenses, when the last time the HOA dues were raised, and you need to literally graph out to see if you're going to all of a sudden get a 20 to a 30% jump in your HOA dues, and if you're going to get a special assessment. And I feel you. I think all of us are going bankrupt because of taxes. Like, everyone in Washington State that I talk to, and I'm talking all income levels that I talk to, from uber wealthy to, oh man, I am just getting by and I'm working 100 hours. And I come from blue collar upbringing. And so I have this love for all people. And to me, it doesn't matter. And so I get to talk with just a huge swath of incomes, of jobs, of everything. And everyone is feeling pinched right now. It is just insane. The whole state is going to crash if the Democrats keep winning. The whole state's going to crash if we keep spending. I don't care if it's Democrat. I don't care if it's a Republican. I don't care who it is. It's the spending is out of control. And we talked about this in another video. Spending in Washington State on the biennium budgets since 2013 is up 117%, while inflation is only up 47%. It's just the spending. It all dumps into the general fund, and then we're not auditing it. We're not looking for a return, and we're not trying to get rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse. Anton for mayor. Hey, I super appreciate that. I love real estate. This is my game. This is my jam. I do what I can to support politics, though, on a local level, especially things that relate to housing, small business, police, fire, education. In other words, I support anything in politics that is about the middle class and strong communities. I'm fighting with multiple jurisdictions right now over certain codes and certain regulations because I love doing land development. And I'm fighting with them because they are pushing things that are preventing certain types of housing, which are preventing certain types of rental units popping up and preventing our first-time home buyers. We have to do everything possible to create attainable housing to help the first-time home buyer get into a home and stay here. The biggest demographic that we're losing in Washington State right now, do you know what it is? We're losing the people who are ready to start a family. We're losing that next generation. They're moving to more affordable areas to have kids, and they're usually people who can work from home or in the tech industry. And so if we don't figure out how to keep and create that next generation here, yes, Washington State will get massively pinched. Another one of my investors asked me a question about this because, they're like, oh no, Washington's going to fall apart. When things are falling apart, what happens is it actually happens over a 5, 10, 15-year run. So it doesn't happen quickly. It happens very slowly. It's like an aircraft carrier that's changing. So there is still time for Seattle, the Seattle Metro, Washington State, for them to change their tune and get things moving in the right direction. So I just had a birthday. I'm 46. Like, I had to think about it. You're getting old when you have to think about how old you are. Oh, I said 46. I'm 47. So I'm 47. So, born the end of the late 70s. I am the tail end of Gen X, grew up, analog, and then moved into digital. And so I got that kind of sweet spot of life of growing up in the 90s. And in the 90s as a kid, I will tell you, I felt free. I felt fun. I felt like there was endless opportunity in our economy and in our state. And I want that feeling to be here for that next generation again. All right, let's flip back into another piece of data. Oh, hold on, we got some more comments. Oh yeah, good job. I bought in 2008 for $250 and sold in 2021 for $730 in Renton. That is absolutely amazing. I am just proud of you for doing that. One thing, let's just look at that. And this is such a good example. Such a good example. So now remember, I still got Snohomish County up on the board, but I could do this in any county. Matter of fact, let's just go to the entire MLS. And let's go back and let's look at this over time. So right here in 2008, the market peaked. This individual bought sometime in 2008, but the market hadn't bottomed. The market didn't bottom until 2012. So wait a second, Anton. I don't have to perfectly buy the bottom. I can just buy. And because we're crazy in Washington and we can't build housing fast enough, and we need 70,000 permits, and we're only putting out 36,000 permits, that home prices are just going to go up. Yeah, that's literally what the data says. Inside of this data also, I will tell you, during the great financial crisis, personally, I got to put it off to the side a little bit so we can see it. Right here during the great financial crisis, most of my business was new construction land development, right? And as this is dropping, I said to my wife, I said, babe, I want to burn it all down. I want to get rid of every home we have and just throw it all away. And she said, are you a quitter? I said, no. She said, what does the math say? I said, well, the math right now is saying that all the homes are below replacement costs. You can't even build them for this cheap. She goes, I don't know what that means. I was like, it means you should just keep it because there's no way to even replace it for that amount. She goes, why is everyone selling? I said, because they're scared. You wouldn't believe the number of people we tried to talk out of a short sale or their property going into foreclosure. Now, of course, that was all that we specialized in. We sold thousands of them during the great financial crisis. But we also told everyone, hey, keep it. And that person from Renton was just a phenomenal example of why you keep it. It's also why when even today, you look at these numbers today, okay, this isn't perfect. That's called a buying signal. If you look at the stock market, it's called buy the dip. I mean, buy the dip. Let's, what just happened on the S&P 500? Oh, there's the SPY. Let's go to the full chart. Look at the daily. Some of my notes right here. Oh, it gapped down. This was the dip. What happened? Everybody bought it. Look at the little arrows I drew. What do I think is going to happen? I think it's going to gap down. I think everyone's going to buy it. What should you do in real estate? The same shiz. Buy, 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 and then buy. All right. Let's finish up Snohomish County real quick. And once again, everyone, drop your questions and comments in below. Happy to kind of review anything you want to take a look at. That way I don't have to just sit here and rant the whole time. New listings are up 33% in Snohomish County. Homes for sale up 48%. Pending sales up 10. Ooh, look at that. Snohomish County, you're beating King County. Good job. Closed sales. Oh, King County's beating you. Days on market, the average 46. Now, one thing that COVID did to us for days on market was it kind of it shifted everyone's perspective that days on market should be 2 weeks. That's not normal. That's just what happened for like a 2-year period. Normal time frame in the state of Washington is literally like 30 to 45 days. So when this says 46 for King County, that is normal. Just absolutely normal. Trying to explain builder incentives to low. Yeah. Builders don't build unless they can make a profit. And we're making it uneconomically viable to build homes in Washington state. 34%, let's just call it a third of the cost of a home is the red tape and the fees in Washington state. That's how bad it is. That means if you're looking at a $600,000 home, that home could literally be $400,000. Looking at $1 million home, it could be around $666,000 if Washington state didn't have the kind of just insane red tape that we have here. All right. A little more stats. Keep the questions and comments coming. I appreciate all of you. Months of supply of pending, 2.2. So, it's moving into a seller's market. What's interesting, though, is even though this is a seller's market, I just showed you that you're not getting the price appreciation that we normally would. I'm retired, kind of. My friends are leaving because of politics and the cost of living. Unfortunately, I'm hearing more and more of that. My businesses are here. My family's here. I'm going to stay and fight. However, at this rate, I may not retire here. The wife has already agreed that we can purchase a second home out of state. I love Arizona. It's just easy to get to. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to keep fighting with everyone and kicking them in the shins just because this is where I grew up. This is my home. But I hear what you're saying. The lack of affordability is massively pinching people. And we need caps on property taxes, for example. You shouldn't be taxed out of your home that you lived in for 50 years because of property taxes. And they go, oh, well, there is some. No, there is some when you make an unbelievably low amount of income that is not a sustainable amount of income. Found you live. I'd love to get connected if that's something to do. I own an installation business. Oh, I love it. Hey, we're always looking for contractors and subs with what we do. My partner, Tony, is the one who is directly in charge of that. Happy to chat about those and our upcoming projects. Let's look at the percent of original list price. Okay, got to throw the average on there. So look. Snohomish County, 98.5. Boom, 99.4. Oh, spring market kicking in. Shows to go pending. 12 showings to go pending. The average listing only receiving 5. One of the things to understand when you see that statistic, if you got basically those 10 showings and your home was listed and it didn't sell, the market is rejecting your price, your condition, your positioning, and your presentation. We have to go through and correct those, because one of those four or all of those four is preventing the market from preventing you from receiving an offer. Also, sometimes it is market timing. So one of our own projects was on the market there in Everett. I kept marking the price down. I was like, forget it. Pulled it off the market, put it back on the spring market higher. Boom, got an offer, sold it for less than I would have just in the winter right there. The homestead exemption, yes, I'm familiar with it. I haven't seen this work well in Washington State. We could literally have a whole video about this one in general. It doesn't work as well as people want it to, or as how the internet reports it works. Kind of like a lot of things, we really have to be careful of the Insta bros and the Insta girls who are they're 20 and they're pontificating about something. When you've done something for 20 years, cool, I care. And you have a history and a track record of doing it, and I want to listen. When you don't have a track record, I don't even know why people listen. It's something I've been trying to teach my kids a lot about lately, is like, there's information and then there's entertainment. And all information should be questioned based on the source, the data, the person telling it to you, the way they're telling it to you. And you should just say, how? Tell me more. Go 3 layers deep on that. Collaborate it from a different level. Think about it from first principles thinking and go, how can I apply this to my life? Or is this just garbage? All right, let's look at Pierce County real quick. That way we have covered the whole metro. And anyone, hit me with questions, comments on the market, the economy, areas that you want to look at. Let's go, Pierce County. Pierce County, 561. Ooh, up 5.8%. Go Pierce. Average down 3.2. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, let's look at it on the 12. So still slightly up on the 12. Let's look at it on the median. Basically flat on the median over the last 12 months. New listings up 16%. Homes for sale 17. Pendings, ooh, up 11. Pierce County, did you beat Snohomish? I think you did, if I could spell correctly. Snohomish County. Let's go to King. Come on, work with me. King County. Yeah, Pierce County, you beat them all. Good job, Pierce. That is probably an example of affordability showing you right there inside the data that the number of pending sales was higher this year. Excuse me, not the number. The percentage of pending sales was higher this February than in Snohomish and in King. All right, close that, close that. Days on market, 60. Oh, slightly higher. Inventory, about the same, 2.5%. of original list price, 96.8. I mean, you're still getting almost 4% off. Let's go. Showings to go pending, 13. Okay. Cap on taxes. Amen. Yes. Yeah. Especially when, this is one of the things that's pissing me off so much about this income tax, is like, you're passing the millionaire tax that will quickly become the everyone tax, but you did nothing to provide tax relief for property taxes when they're just extraordinary. You did nothing to support small business when you just raised taxes against the average person in small business. $4.9 billion, the largest increase in tax history. Yeah, we need some reprieve. I have 11 unit that was appraised in 22 for $3 million. Given interest rates, what do you think it would price right now? That's going to depend specifically on the cap rate and your trailing 12. So you look at the trailing 12, like what is the rent's been over the last 12 months. Then we need to go through, calculate the cap rate based on the rents. Then based on the expense ratio, it's going to show you where it's at. Now I'm going to give a generality. Generally speaking, a lot of the multifamily values, and let's see if I can grab some of them for you real quick, just to give this as an example. Let's go into King County because I might be able to get the most data there. Oh, it's not going to give it to me. Okay, it's not going to give me the data I want. Generally speaking, what happened with interest rates, because I can show this to you on the 10-year. When I look at the 10-year treasury and we go back 5 years, right? So here we are, and debt is literally 3.5%. And then all of a sudden, we go into 2022, and the Federal Reserve started hiking rates like crazy. And I forget if it was right here or right here. This is when the 30-year fixed hit basically 8%. Unfortunately, for most of the multifamily market, if it was purchased in 2022, it is literally at exactly where you purchased, maybe even slightly below or slightly above. My recommendation is, we're happy to take a look at that property specifically, but we got to run the numbers to figure out if it's even worth selling today. Then the second question is, did you 1031 into that? Is there something that we might have to roll into another property to prevent capital gains? Are you ready to recapture the depreciation? What's the intention for that particular set of capital? And 5% is good debt. We can't get 5% right now. We just got quoted. I think it's 5.875 and 6.5 on another one. And sometimes you can get like 4.87 to 5.25. It's going to depend on the LTV. Really good question, though. Really good question. All right. We want to look at Thurston. Let's go to Thurston real quick. And once again, if we can help you with that, just send us a message. We're happy to dig through that property specifically. Let's look at Thurston. What is happening in the Thurston County, aka where our state's capital is? So I'm going to tell you something. Generally speaking, Thurston has outperformed a lot of the area because even as the economy went into a little bit of turmoil, a lot of the jobs in Thurston County, my wife's from Olympia, so I'm in Olympia all the time. Sorry, I got distracted. A lot of the jobs there are government jobs. So because government jobs, one, they all got raises in that last tax increase. Two, it's been very stable, and Washington State hasn't let go of any government jobs. That's kept Thurston County really stable relative to the surrounding counties. Okay, hide the comment, throw the data up. Down last month, 2.9%. The median was 500. Average 518, down 0.8. So once again, kind of performing, better than some of the other areas. Not quite as good as King. New listings up 21%. Homes for sale up 27%. Pending sales. Whoa, see, look at that. Thurston County killing it. Pendings up 46%. I mean, that's better than Snohomish, better than Pierce, better than King. Good job, Thurston. Closed sales up 7, so not quite as good as Pierce. Days on market, 62. About 2.6 months worth of supply. The percent of original list price. The average person's getting 3.4% off right now. The average price per square foot, $289. I'll give you a special tip. At $289 a square foot, if you are looking for a deal, because I think you were the same commenter earlier, what I want you to do is I want you to look at the listings that are available. I want you to resort by days on market, and then I want you to resort it again based on this metric, the price per square foot. Okay? Because if you can find something that's been on the market for a while with a lower price per square foot, that is a deal, number one. And number two, they may be willing to take a slightly lower offer. You need to make sure that your agent is going to be aggressive enough and has a track record and a history of being able to negotiate on your behalf and get a bunch of money off. Okay, last but not least, shows to pending. Average is 11. and the average property is only getting 4 showings. That's another good example. Let's just say you're out with your agent. You walked into the house and you saw, hey, there's only 4 cards on the table. It means they probably haven't gotten an offer yet. Now, conversely, you walk in, you see 11 cards. It means they're getting an offer. This is the cool thing about data. Data doesn't lie. Doesn't lie. I don't even know what this means, but I'll take it. The Osmond Gold of real estate. Let's go. Cool. Tell me more about that. It missed me on that comment. In 2023, we bought 750 square foot fixer upper, detached garage, alley access, West Seattle for $475. Made our dream home by doing. Oh, that's awesome. That is amazing. Good freaking job. Also, with this DADU and this ADU thing that's happening, West Seattle, if you've got room on your property, is the perfect location to do an ADU or a DADU. One of our buyers, we just bought them a beautiful property third quarter of last year that had this cute little ADU. And because it already had the ADU, they didn't want to do any work themselves. We paid, more than what I thought, but it offset their mortgage. I have a feeling because of income tax, the housing market's going to crash. I'll be blunt. I wish it would crash. I'm much better prepared right now than I was, in 2008. So, give me a crash, please. Let's look at that. Let's talk about that. I would love for it to crash because I could take advantage of this. The problem is if the housing market genuinely crashes, it also means, because we're so far behind on supply in Washington state, that if we crash, it actually means the economy is gone in the full dumper. Like, we are going into a major recession, probably a depression, or something like the Great Financial Crisis. See, the Great Financial Crisis is a misnomer inside of the larger data set. If you go back and look at every recession, that's the only recession where we had major home prices or major drop in home prices. Why is that? Because housing caused the physical crash itself. Because of the ninja loans, the no income, no job, no document liar loans. Because we took buyers from the future that were not qualified and we shoved them into homes today, creating artificial supply, while we took underwriting criteria and shoved it to zero. I bought my first home in 2003. And I may or may not have said I made a lot more money on the application than I did. And it did. Well, luckily, we were able to keep our home, but I really stretched and bought way more home than we should have. I would be a buyer, can't justify the yeah, I hear you. So, my thoughts on things like this too is, one, understand that rent always goes up over time. Two, when you buy a piece of real estate, it forces you to be it's like a forced savings account. Think of it like a 401k where your employer automatically withdraws it from your checking. The reality, or excuse me, your check. The reality is home prices in our area generally go up a little over 5% every year. And so what happens is, yes, rent may be lower today, but then you get a fixed mortgage. Of course, taxes and insurance go up a little bit. But then there's a point at which they cross. Plus, you start building equity. And then the second thing I want you to be thinking about is the government only likes 2 people. Dead serious. Only 2. They like business owners and homeowners. And that is who they give all the tax incentives and bonuses to. So when you're a homeowner, you get to write off all of your interest. Plus, I can paint the walls hot pink or fuchsia if I want. Tiger stripe, whatever you want to do. You can't necessarily do that. Plus, it creates this sense of stability and this pride of ownership. So I understand that. I want you taking that $1,400 a month and investing it and saving and then going and buying when you can. Don't forget the gas. Oh, I know. This is just ridiculous. So I need to make a video specifically about this one. The Climate Commitment Act, they lied to us. So if you remember, Inslee said, oh, it's only going to add pennies to the cost of gas. We have one of the highest gas tax in the nation. I think we have the second highest gas prices, just right behind California. And that is all because of our taxes and the Climate Commitment Act. You pay more in taxes into the Climate Commitment Act, which is a tax, than basically almost anywhere else in the country other than California. Just ridiculous. 62 own 3 properties. That is gangster. And I would, if you own 3, go 1031 one of them, turn it into a duplex, or build a dadu or 2 in the backyard. When things aren't perfect is the best time to do these things. Start panting like a dog. I got a Labrador. Yeah, I agree with this. Go invest. I think the American dream is still alive, but I think the American dream is a little bit on life support. We've got to figure out a way to support the middle class and to make it attainable for the first-time home buyer to purchase a home. And we've got to create that housing product to be able to help and support them. The middle class is being hauled out and decimated, and it's not the same middle class it was for the baby boomers or even for when I was a kid. My dad was a longshoreman here in Seattle, and we lived a great middle class life. And a lot of those jobs are just hard to get. Definitely build a dadu. Oh, so no, I get it. Then don't build the dadu today. Build it when you're ready to move. Build it when you're ready to move. Use the Washington State Condominium Act, condo off the back, and then turn around and sell both units, go buy a bigger house or keep one. Either or. But the fact that you have that opportunity, that's amazing. Yeah, home values are overinflated, but everyone's been saying that they're going to crash since the last crash. And if you go back and look at headlines, just go and look at history. People have been saying home prices are overinflated since forever. Get your listing presentation. It's pretty polished, the listing presentation. It's only been done thousands of times, so it's good. Ooh, I like this idea. Would a crash make development less expensive or would it stay the same? That's a really good question. So during the great financial crisis, that was a huge recession. And we had all these builders and developers go out of business. 72% of my business was new construction prior to the great financial crisis. And then we went into the great financial crisis and then, boom, it crashed. Then I literally had to do builder developer bailouts. I had to go back to my same clients. I had to work for these banks and go to these builders that were underwater and help figure out how to solve them. And yes, you saw wages drop and you also saw material prices drop because of the lack of demand. The problem that we have right now is the demand massively exceeds the supply. I can show you this on the Federal Reserve's website. Let's see if this, oh yeah, there we go. On the Federal Reserve's website, so this is units started, okay? And you can see, if you just simply look at this, like see where my mouse is about, let's call it just right here, just under 2 million units. This is about what we should be making to keep up with population. We had a great spike here in the 70s, cool little spike in the end of the 70s, going into the 80s right here. This is the early 2000s. But then this giant trough, okay, see this peak right here, 2006, and then this peak right here, this whole V that's missing is about 6 million units nationally. That's the reason we're not getting the crash. And even if the economy did suck really bad, I don't know that we would get the development crash that we had the last time. You may get a small reset, but it's not going to go back to where we want it to be. And part of that is from that massive money printing that we saw. When the government prints a ton of money, it's so inflationary and so insane. And then it just punishes your purchasing power, my purchasing power, everyone's purchasing power for years and years to come. That is really correct. If you write from home, you can write off a portion of that. So I'm not an accountant. I would just pretend to be one on TV, not financial advice, but you could take your home office exemption. And, you should also look at starting an LLC and having a side hustle so that you can get other additional write-offs and other additional work from home. That is one thing that you should be doing. Thought about the 1031. Yes, the 1031 is a phenomenal vehicle. The 1031 tax deferred exchange, what allows you to do is allows you to sell a piece of real estate. And let's say you have a 200 or a 300 or a $500,000 gain. If it goes into an exchange, which is a third party, you don't touch the money, and then that goes right into another piece of real estate that is of greater value, you don't have to pay taxes on it yet. You rolled the basis forward, and then you get to start a new appreciation cycle on a more expensive asset, a larger depreciation cycle, and you can generally get more cash flow and upside potential. Our goal is 1031 and then just die. Okay. I'm not trying to sound morbid, but that's really what you should be doing and what you should be thinking about. That way, when you leave it to the next generation, they get to step up in basis. They have been going great. Good. 11 years. What changed? I don't know what that means exactly. You're going to have to explain more on that one. Yeah. Yeah. It has everything to do with Iran. Like, oil prices went insane. I showed that graph earlier. I still think I have it up. I can pull it up real quick. Oil. And I like looking at WTI crude. This is just one of the ones I've looked at so many times. This is Iran, and then boom, it goes to $120 a barrel when it's like usually like 65. This President Trump talking, boom, oil prices popping back up. They are going to come up again. You can see the upward momentum inside of this chart right now. Rates will drop when Papa Powell is gone. The new Kevin obviously wasn't going to get the job unless President Trump thought that he was going to lower rates. My only concern with him is he is a fiscal hawk. He is very conservative. He is a strong dollar individual. In 2008, he wanted to raise rates when unemployment was rising. So that's my slight concern, but I do believe Trump probably won him over to get, otherwise he wouldn't have got the job. Yeah, money printing. Nothing going to change in Washington. People feel the pain. Yeah, I know. I agree. So Washington State needs more civic involvement. I believe the extremes, in both parties, by the way, I believe the extremes are pushing agendas and what's happening. And I believe that most people, regardless of political affiliation, and I'm an optimist, so this may be Anton being optimistic. I believe that most people are more in the middle and more moderate and open to new views and ideas than our current system is letting on. I have gone over time. Thank you all for hanging out with me. If you watch this on the replay, drop any questions below. Happy to answer them. And once again, just thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate your time, and I know that your time is valuable. Hit that subscribe button. I will see you again in the next one. Hope you all have an amazing day.